Now that we're finished with our Hack the Box exercises, let's take a step back and review some things that we learned about enumerating a web application. In the first example, we looked at a vulnerable machine named Knife. We used basic tools built into Parrot OS, namely nmap and nikto, to identify what technologies were being used on the web server, specifically what versions of things might exist. And it was as simple as Googling for a vulnerability that enabled us to compromise that machine. The second example we looked at was another vulnerable machine named OpenAdmin, where we followed much of the same pattern that we did on Knife, meaning we started with an nmap scan, we scanned the application using nikto, and then we added on an additional tool named gobuster, which helped us to brute force any directories that we might not otherwise have found. The third example we looked at was a vulnerable machine named Nibbles. And again, we used nmap and nikto and gobuster to speed up the manual enumeration that we could do against that target. If you're sensing a pattern here, not only in the use of automated tools, but also in the way in which we start with an nmap scan and then move on to progressively deeper and more specifically targeted tools, then you're really starting to understand hacker theory. The moral of the story, irregardless of the specific machines and examples that we've looked at throughout this course so far, is that hackers typically are not just flailing around your application, poking and prodding, hoping to find vulnerabilities. More often than not, they're following some specific paradigm that's going to allow them to use a combination of automated tools like those you're learning here, as well as progressively more difficult manual enumeration techniques. As a software developer, my hope is that you are learning how quickly and easily an attacker can enumerate your application simply by pointing some automated tools at it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you should be frightened that the automated tools are going to quickly and easily hack their way into your application. But the takeaway is that the automated tools and the specific thought process that attackers are going to use as they review the results of those automated tools provides an opportunity for you to think more carefully about how you defend your own applications. There's really very little that you can do as a software developer to prevent the enumeration of your application using any of these automated tools. Certainly, there are automated defense systems that can detect when large numbers of HTTP requests are being launched against your application, and perhaps they can blacklist an IP address so that it no longer has access to your part of the network. But ultimately, it's difficult to prevent the enumeration of your application, whether it's using automated tools or more manual processes. What you really should spend your time focusing on is identifying the most likely avenues for threats and risks to your application, and you can only do that if you're prepared to try enumerating the assets you have yourself. Now, keeping all of this in mind, we've got one more example to look at in the next section. Let's go check out the OWASP 2 shop.